What's up, everyone? Welcome back to ASAP Engineering Podcast.
What up?
I'm Cameron and here with Bridger, as always.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that we've actually gotten a lot of questions about recently from people we know and people on Twitter,
Yeah.
and that is landing contract positions as a developer. I think this can be tough because it involves selling, which I think is scary for a lot of developers.
Yeah.
They don't like the idea of having to market and sell, in this case, their own services. But we thought we'd kind of run through three things that we feel like are a good game plan, a good playbook for landing contract positions or just freelance contracts, basically, as a developer that we've
Yeah.
seen, at least in our own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get started. So first thing is kind of the idea of becoming top of mind. This is really important because this is kind of how you have to stand out amidst competition, right? Like there's so many options of people that someone can
Yeah.
hire for a contract developer. Why should they choose you instead of going to like Upwork or Fiverr, for instance? Or how do you even become
Yeah.
top of mind? Yeah, Bridget, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. This is something we kind of touched on in our last episode, talking about more ways to make money. And I really liked, where we went with it, where it's like, what does it mean to be top of mind? It's like, you know, constantly you know, we talked about how it is hard to sell, right? It's hard to be a salesperson, especially as a developer
Yeah,
where that's not what we're trained to do. And so, in a way, you kind of make your friends, family, colleagues, connections, the salespeople for you, right? So constantly they're going about their day, they're learning about like what their friends are trying to build, what they're trying to make. They have an app idea. They meet with a new client who they are looking for a developer, right? And so what you want to be is you want to be that developer that's top of mind, that's like, hey, I know Bridger and Cameron have a development studio and they're building apps. So oh, Charlie needs help with his app, like I can recommend Bridger and Cameron because I know them and what they're doing, right? And so that is becoming top of mind. It's almost creating like a little, Salesforce yourself, and that takes work, but what's nice about that is that it is with people you already know, right? So it can be your brother-in-law, your uh, friend from work. Just letting them know what you do, and being willing to talk about like what you're passionate about. When that is coding and design or whatever, and then you become like that person that is top of mind. And for us at 98, like we've seen, like that's been almost all of our contacts and all of our contract positions. It's like, hey, these guys are really good at what they do, and like I've worked with them or I know them personally, and so I would recommend them to you, and then we get, we can just book a meeting, right? So I think that's
yeah.
kind of like what it means to like be top of mind to me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love what you said about having other people be your salespeople for you.
Yeah.
Um, I think if you just basically treat everything as a networking opportunity, like whenever you meet a new person, um, and then whenever you're talking to someone, just basically, it doesn't have to be annoying either. You can just be like, yeah, like I'm a developer.
Yeah.
And then if you connect with them on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, and then you're just continuously talking about the things that you do on those platforms too, then they see it, right? And people notice. And then again, they think of you when they need something, right? Like everyone's got an idea of
Hmm.
something they want to build. Some people want to actually follow through with it. And then you're top of mind uh, to go to for that.
Yeah.
I
And
think
I
that's
think,
great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say too, like find the people who are good at networking too on their own, and like
Yeah,
be
that's a
and
good
network
point.
with them, right? So it's like you can find these like people who are kind of like opportunity nodes where they're, always in connection with people. So like a good idea is like a marketing agency owner or like founder, like they're always talking to people who need a developer, or like
Yes.
meeting up with like a venture capitalist and like offering your services, that type of thing. They're constantly working with, these startup companies who are looking for web designers, web developers, app developers, full stack developers, that type of thing. And so like finding these like opportunity nodes people who are, in the middle of it, and just making yourself known and being of value to them too.
Totally. Yeah, I think too, like, I'll just touch on this super fast, but I think even like your competition can be your friend.
Yeah.
There's like, I know that we know people that have agencies, right, where they're friends with other agencies, and they'll get work from another agency that's technically a competitor because an agency sometimes has too much work, or they
Yeah.
might get a bid for a client that like they don't want to do the project, or they just like don't have the hands to do the project at the time. So then
Hmm.
they say like, oh, like, sorry, we can't do it, but we'll pass it off. Like, we'll give you a referral to our friend who can do it. And then the other business gets the contract. So just networking with people that are doing things very similar to you can also be a huge benefit.
Yeah, and
Um,
I totally agree, and I think going off of that too, like finding people who are just outside of what you do, right? Like honestly, that's kind of us, where it's like Cameron's a lot better like full stack developer, and I'm very good at like design in the front end and design engineering, and so we, like Cameron will get like, hey, I need help with this full stack thing, and then it's like, oh yeah, we also have a design engineer that can help with that, or like, and vice versa. And then, like I've just tried to connect with graphic designers, because you never know, like they're going to be in a situation where they're like, I need someone to build an app for me. Then it's like, oh, Bridger and Cameron, that type of thing. And that's another way to get first to mind is by connecting with people who are just outside like what you do or what you're best at, and kind of partnering up with people, and when they have, when they're just encountering in their day-to-day work, like, oh, I need help with this thing more, like I should hit up Cameron, because he's a lot
yeah,
better at full stack than me. And so yeah, I think that's another good way to like become top of mind to somebody.
totally. Yeah, it helps on the other side too, because I mean, we've had times when like a client will say like, oh, I need this done. And we're like, oh, like, sorry, we actually don't do that, but we like know somebody that does. And then you can like reciprocate and give business back to people that you're also getting stuff from, which is great. Um, I think we kind of touched on it, but like landing the client is another big thing, right? And I think a big part of that is just having work that you can showcase, and then also just having confidence.
Yeah.
It's like scary to sell yourself, and I feel like it's always like the first thought that you want to do is kind of be almost like apologetic and like a little bit soft, in the sense that like um I'm trying to think of the best way to word it, but right, like if a client comes to you with a project and you don't feel like 100% confident in doing it, like odds are like you can do it easily.
Yeah.
But be confident in yourself and just like, yeah, make say like, yeah, we can do the project, and then just have like a figure it out mentality. I think that's huge, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I think that's perfect going into it. And then I would say, like, for when you do have that meeting, right? Like, we like to set so we get hit up by a friend of a friend who says we need developers at a company we own, and we saw you guys. So we will usually be like, hey, can we set up a call real quick, right? And then I think two things like to keep in mind, also like alongside of what Cameron said, where it's like it's okay if you don't know everything, and like it's okay to like believe in yourself basically, and like be confident. Then two other things I would recommend is, one, taking the time to like research beforehand their company and what they're
Yeah,
about, right? So they'll love if you take that time and show up being like, I understand your company and what you value, and here's what it is, right? Here's what you value, and I think that we can build software to strengthen that, or build a website to advertise that better or market it better. And so yeah, like take your time to do your research before meeting with them. And then the other thing to remember too is like to really take the time to do some discovery of, why are they deciding now to redo their website, or why are they trying to add this feature to their app, or and like getting what their goal is, and just really understanding where they're coming from. And these things will really build like rapport, and it really puts you, I feel like, in the driver's seat of like, I'm here, I'm confident, I'm an expert in what I do, and like here's what I bring to the table, and the value that I bring. And then from there it's like, you can go into then like the specifics, right, of how to charge, and that type of thing,
Yeah.
which maybe we could talk a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, I think we should touch on it. I think that the biggest thing with what to charge, how to charge is you just kind of have to try things and see what works best for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, and I think some developers, some people value things more than other things. So for
Yeah.
instance, like we are open to getting paid in equity, especially if we believe in the project. Some people might not be. Because we have other revenue streams, it's easier for us to do that because we're not having to, just completely rely on that income from consulting gigs to live.
Yeah.
But so I think that's like a very viable option. But again, if you don't want to do that, that's like totally fine, right? And just be very upfront about that and then just charge more. Um, and one big thing though, like kind of the classic debate is, do you charge like per hour or by project? I think it just
Yeah.
kind of depends on like you and the project. Typically, you want to charge whatever is going to be in your favor, right? So if you maybe are like not as familiar with the project specs and what it's going to be, maybe you should charge by hour because you're going to have to do discovery, right? Or you're going to have to put in more hours. But if you're like really familiar with it and you can do it in your sleep, then like you are an expert in that field and you have like every right to charge just as a project. And if you say you bid it for like 2 grand, but it only takes you like 10 hours, then like that's fine, right? Like you deserve to be paid $200 an hour because like you're an expert in it, right? And you don't have to
Yeah.
apologize for that, and you can totally back it up. Because if someone hired someone on Upwork, right, for $20 an hour, then it might have taken them like 1,000 hours to do it, right? And it would still be more expensive. So I think it just kind of depends. You kind of have to see what works for you. I think for us, it kind of is like project dependent. Like whatever we, depending on the project, we like sometimes may charge differently.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think like exactly what Cameron said, like there's different times where, one or the other is better. And then there's even some ways to do like a hybrid where you can do like a sort of like a retainer basically. And that's it's we use a retainer quite a bit, and that's if we're becoming more integrated into the team we're consulting with or working with. But then we want to get a like steady monthly payment. So like an example would be $5,000 for 10 or 20 hours from us, right? So that's like a retainer where it's like I will give you up to 20 hours. Past that, I will charge you whatever that amount is per hour, to work, or you can just tell me to wait until next month to continue, right? And then that way you're getting paid up front like 5 grand a month, that type of thing. But then you're protected where you're not going to get like on a project overworked or like over pushed to do too much, or the scope explodes. You'll get paid for that, and we've seen some good success with that. But then just like Cameron said, like there's times where it's like, hey, like I just need a new website. Like it's a project that has like a specific deliverable, and like ways to get there. And so that's where you would want to go more into like a project cost, basis. And what we like to do is like take the amount of hours we think it will take, and then add like 50% cost onto that, because that like you will always have more work than you think, right? It's just
Yeah,
inevitable.
always.
And so planning for that and like budgeting that in is important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I think that we basically covered everything well. Kind of
Yeah.
recapping, it's just find ways to become top of mind, right? And let other people do the sales for you.
Yeah.
Be confident, set up meetings to land the client, and then just kind of figure out based off of the project how you're going to charge and what works best for you. And it's totally fine to kind of experiment with some of these, right? Like we've definitely had a lot of trial and error to kind
Yeah.
of get to the process that we have, but you kind of have to find the process that works best for you.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
yeah,
thanks for
don't be afraid to say like, I'll get back to you with a proposal, right? Like
yeah,
I think
yeah. You can
that's
take
important.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
and feel confident because the fact that they're coming to you, right, means that they uh, see you as like an actual viable developer, right? And
Yeah,
you can be completely confident in that, and you have
totally.
like leverage in the
Yes.
negotiation. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, listening. Until next time, we'll see you. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter, asap.engineering. Check out our website, and yeah, find us on Twitter. DM us if you have any questions.
Sweet. Thanks.
Sweet.
Thanks, man. See ya.
See you.